There's a lot to like about the New York Giants and what they have shown this summer, and there are also a few concerns. What are we talking about? We check in with former NFL scout David Turner for his take. Coming up next on the Locked On Giants podcast.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily New York Giants podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, New York Giant fans, and welcome to another edition of the Locked On Giants podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast family, your team every day. My name's Patricia Traina. Happy to have you with us. Shout out to all our everydayers, our newcomers, and everybody in between. So glad to have you on this new week of the Locked On Giants podcast. And today's episode of the Locked On Giants podcast is brought to you by BetterHelp. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. Visit betterhelp.com/lockedon today to get 10% off your first month. And Giant fans, on today's show, we are going to take an overview of what we have seen so far from the New York Giants. There's a lot to like. There's a lot of concerns still. We'll talk a little bit about the rookies and helping us to break everything down. Those of you who have been with me for a while, you recognize the guy on the other side of me, David Turner, former NFL scout. He's back. He's going to be with me again this season and the rest of the preseason to break down the games as often as we can on a Monday. David, great to have you back.
Thanks for having me back. I always have a blast. I love talking big blue football, and with you, it just brings I love these shows. Like, I live for them. My family's like, "Are you doing the shows again?" Because we know you look forward to them, and I'm like, "I am. I got invited back. I didn't run out my welcome yet. So here we go."
Well, for those of you who are new to the Locked On Giants podcast, David Turner used to be an NFL scout. He actually worked for the Giants way back in the day, so he's a little familiar with the organization. He's also done personnel work for the CFL. I think you've done personnel work from the Raiders. I know that. The 49ers, I think. Got a fairly impressive list of background when it comes to football personnel. And, of course, he's done scouting, as I mentioned. So David knows a little something about, what we see on the field. And always good to have an extra perspective on the show. So, David, let's get right into it. The Giants, year 2 under Brian Daboll, they got Mike Kafka back. They got Wink Martindale back. Overall, what are your takeaways based on what you've seen so far in the preseason with year 2 of this offense and this defense?
As always, usually the first game was vanilla, right? And the defense, Wink. I've known Wink forever since we worked at the Raiders together. So, I know he's always vanilla. Let's just get him into play and see what they can move around, do a little bit. Week 2 showed a lot more, I think, about what the offensive identity is going to start morphing into. We didn't see Barkley obviously running the ball, but I think we saw a little bit of what Brian wants to do with throwing the ball around a little bit more. And the defense showed a little bit more teeth to it. I think, Wink threw a couple blitzes in there. We saw some of the starters going in and out. And the rotation in the front, got a little excited about. I think there's some front players that are going to contribute. Whereas last year, when our first stringers went out and took a breather, we started getting gashed a little bit. Right now, I think we got a couple tools in the shed that they can pull out, and the step down isn't as big as it was last year. So the preseason, to me, I think we're seeing a little bit more of what the offense is going to mature into. I don't know if we're fully there yet. I think it might take a couple weeks with these new parts, but the parts we're ginning, we're rolling. I don't get to go to practice like you and see it, but I saw some really explosive opportunities coming in some of the matchups and how they're going to work off each other. I could see where this is going. I like where the stew is right now.
Let's talk specifically about Daniel Jones, because a lot of debate still about Daniel Jones. He got the big contract, 4 years, $160 million. A lot of people are starting to get on board that train, but there are still a lot of people who aren't on board that train. What did you see from Daniel? I know he only played the one series. He completed 8 of 9 passes. He had one run in the mix. But based on what you saw of him in that opening sequence, what stood out to you about him?
He ran out of bounds.
Yes. Besides that, obviously.
Inside joke for those of you who have watched Patricia and I for a while.
Besides
That
that,
was the most
obviously.
impressive. They got the kid to run out of bounds. No, what I saw was precision, but I also saw a good understanding of the reads. The read concept with this new offense, Waller and Paris Campbell and those guys getting in the mix. Daniel did a really good job reading the concepts early. I know they were playing, obviously, a base defense, so it makes the reads earlier and easier. You know what I'm saying? But for me, Daniel's understanding of the read concepts, I thought were really clean. He knew where he was going with the ball based on pre-snap reads of safeties and linebackers. He was very decisive, and his ball placement was excellent. I mean, he didn't put his receivers in position. The one where the safety came downhill and hit Waller, I mean, he still put that ball in Waller's chest plate so Waller could protect himself. He didn't have him extended out and, open up that rib cage and all that. So the ball placement to me was still really good. And it gave his receivers opportunity to run after the catch, make yards after the catch, and all that kind of thing. So that was excellent. But the read concepts, I think, are coming a little bit more year 2 here with Daniel. He's seen it a little bit more, and he's like, okay, I get what coach wants. I saw some good things there as well. So for me, if you're not, I mean, you and I know, and I've been saying that no one can call me a bandwagon guy. Like, I've been a Daniel Jones guy. I like him. I worry about his running and the offensive play calling, having him run so much, right? But I like the kid, and I think he has the tools to be successful. And now we're finally surrounding him with quality receivers and tight ends that can, do it. And our tight end group, when we get there, we'll talk about it. But our tight end group, to me, is going to really help this kid this year.
Well, let's talk about the tight end group, specifically Waller. I mean, he's been the toast of the town, the prize acquisition, if you will. We've seen in practice as well as in games some of what he can do as far as drawing a crowd up the middle, which opens up things along the sidelines for one-on-one matchups. But what other impact have you seen Waller have on this offense so far?
Well, it's his presence alone as a big body. I can't call him physical because I don't think he's a big mala. I don't think he's going to move people off the offensive line. But when he's blocking, but he's such a big presence in the secondary, it ties up too. So, you saw it on the touchdown catch that Bellinger caught.
Mhm.
He went straight, Waller did the vertical and Bellinger came off of it and he tied up too. So when you got a big body just stretching the field, vertically, it ties up too. And then the back end is a one-on-one. So now it just leaves him with a concept of beat the guy in front of you. And Bellinger was able to, and he's going to be consistently able to because Bellinger's a talented tight end in himself. I'm not going to call this like a Dallas Clark and Pollard type situation here right away. But we got some talented tight ends that really you can run 12 personnel now for a lot of concepts, and then work your speedy receivers off that tie too. So you go out and you start establishing Waller like he did early, like coach did early. Now what comes next? Oh, we got to jump 2 onto him. Paris Campbell's a one-on-one, Shepard's one-on-one, whoever the receivers, shake out to be are one-on-one because you got them on the same side as Waller. And if you don't, Waller's such a tall, big catch radius target that Daniel can throw it up and he can go over most safeties and a lot of the corners even in this league because he's such a big body guy. I mean, you're like having a power forward here at tight end. So that mismatch creates a lot of opportunity for the secondary targets to come into play. So you'll hear me say it probably most of the year, this tied to concept, who's getting the tied up to, whether it be a receiver and Waller has a big game, or whether it's Waller always getting double teamed and one of our receivers coming in and having the big game.
All right. Now, before we move off of the offense, one question mark still is the offensive line. They look like they continue to rotate.
We were staying positive.
I know, but we've got to talk about it. It's the elephant in the room,
It is.
So, the offensive line. All right. So Andrew Thomas locked in at left tackle. John Michael Schmitz is locked in at center. They're still trying to figure out left guard, it looks like, although I think Ben Bredesen probably is the best looking of the batch. I don't know if you agree. Evan Neal, didn't do that badly in his debut, his 2023 debut, coming off of the concussion, but still needs, some work. And then Mark Lewinsky obviously needs to bounce back from an inconsistent year. But when you look at this offensive line, how do you see it playing out, and where are you still concerned with this group?
Well, let's talk starters. Concern here is the right side of the line, just starters. Neal, I thought he had a very, very good rookie season. Very good rookie season. But he needs to improve. And the improvement that I need to see him play is with square shoulders. A couple times in this game, I saw him turn his shoulders as he's passing off, going, bringing his player inside. He's turning that right shoulder, creating a very narrow twist corner. Now, if this twist corner is going to stay narrow like that, Daniel Jones is going to get beat up all day on the right side. So what he needs to learn, this young man needs to learn, is how to pass off squarely and keep that right shoulder, because he's a broad player, keep that right shoulder out there so he can then take that twist on, or a blitzing linebacker, he can see it. It opens his vision up a little bit better. Maybe a corner or late blitz from a safety, he'll see it, and with his long wingspan, at least get a chip on somebody to give Daniel that half second to get rid of the ball. I understand offensive line play isn't pretty, guys. It's not, and if you can just get a chip or a push or a shoulder or a slap on somebody really quick, it gives you that quarterback an extra second just to get rid of the ball, half second to get rid of the ball. That's all you need. But you can't do that if you're turned. As an offensive lineman, you really have to play square with your shoulders parallel to the line and learn how to play that way. I need this young man to do that. Now, my next biggest concern isn't the guards as much, because I thought there was a lot of serviceable guards that we can rotate in and out. I don't think we have an all-star guard. I don't think we have an all-pro guard, okay? I think we have good serviceable guards, but it's that third tackle spot. That third tackle spot is a huge red alarm for me, okay? Like, we don't have that third spot. I know, and you know what I feel about number 74, the man that will never be named. But, for me, he's just soft, and he's not ability to, use that big physical body that he has. I mean, this man was born with a lot of tools, and he's just not, for whatever reasons, it's not come out. I think it's his fourth year, and it's still not come out. And, he needs to make it happen. Now he's coming off an injury, so it's even, harder for him to do it. But he needs to just get some cojones and just start getting in fights. Like, seriously, like, I don't care. I need to see some fire from him, some some love for football to, keep Daniel Jones upright. But if we don't either address it somehow or focus it, that third tackle spot is going to be a huge issue for us this year.
So before he got injured, Tyree Phillips wasn't doing it for you?
Oh, again, I didn't see enough. Let me put it that way. I didn't see enough from Tyree Phillips to say that I like what we see here out of Tyree Phillips. We're good at the third tackle spot going forward. You're at practice, so you might have seen it and been like, okay, I'm more comfortable with it. I just have the 2 preseason games, right? And what I'm looking at, so I can't say that.
So all you're seeing basically is number 74, and number 70 is also another one competing. And then they played poor Wyatt Davis out of position because they basically didn't have anybody. And then they brought in Julian Davenport. So just, the question of who's going to be that third swing tackle at this point. And that is definitely a big concern. But just before we move off the offensive line, you mentioned you're not concerned about guard, but they've been rotating Azudu and Bredesen primarily at that left guard spot. Who do you think might be the better fit for that position? I think Bredesen hasn't done anything to lose it. Azudu, to me, has been sometimes inconsistent, but what do you see?
I think Azuzu's the guard of the future, but he needs maturation and some maturity to his game. And only reason I say maturity, I think, is just learning the blitz pickups and different things. It's just again, he's not done anything wrong, folks. I'm not sitting here saying he's done something wrong. It's just not he's not doing stuff fast enough yet. And when you get against the ones consistently for 4 quarters, you need to be quicker in that ability to read and pass off and do things and see, the inside games happen so fast. Like, people don't understand, like, when you're on the edge, and tackles is when I call on the edge. When you're on the edge, there's a lot of space. So you have to have foot quickness and space out there. But inside, it happens so quickly. You got to know, like, right at the snap, what's happening to make your blocks, not only in the pass game, but in the run game too. You got to see your guy go away and work to 2. You got to double team and get off tackles. It happens within seconds, milliseconds. So I just think he's the guard of the future, because I see a lot of good physical traits from this young man, right? But I think to start the season, Bredesen is the starter. But if he's forced into action, Ezeudu is somebody that can definitely do it. You just might have a few growing pains while he's getting adjusted to the different schemes he's going to see and everything that comes his way.
All right, that's certainly fair enough. All right, coming up next, folks, we are going to talk about the defensive side of the ball, where there's some very impressive looking rookies that we need to talk about. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. This episode of the Locked On Giants podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp. Life can sometimes drag us down, leaving us with more questions than answers. Life-changing decisions and events can challenge our coping skills and call our confidence in making decisions into question. BetterHelp can provide you with the guidance you need to become empowered in your decision-making process. BetterHelp is entirely online and is designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist. If your assigned therapist turns out not to be a match, you can switch anytime for no additional charge. Let therapy be your map with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/lockedon today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Locked On Giants podcast. You have me, Patricia Traynor, your host, and I'm joined by David Turner, former NFL scout, used to work for the Giants back in the day, worked for the Raiders, did some work in the CFL, all kinds of stuff.
Well-traveled.
Yes, well-traveled. That's the well-traveled David Turner around various football leagues. So he's here, and he will be here with me hopefully every week, breaking down the Giants games and what we see. And we always have a blast on these shows. So glad to have him back in the saddle with me. Glad he didn't, get tired and run away. So
Never. Oh my gosh. I look forward to this. Like I said in the beginning, I'm so excited.
Well, anyway, David, let's talk about the Giants defense. A lot to like about this unit, Wink being Wink, doing all kinds of fancy stuff and whatnot. But, I really want to start with the backfield and this new look that they have there with moving Adoree down into the slot, and you have 2 rookies out on the outside. What are your thoughts about that? And based on what you saw of that formation, do you think it's something that they can really work with this season against some of the better, receiving cores they're going to face?
I do. I think the kids look great so far from what I've seen. I'll call the corners the kids right now, but the rookies, they look good right now, especially Banks. I mean, Hawkins kind of, I think I had less expectations for Hawkins, obviously being the lower pick. So I was like, okay, he'll throw some stuff around. He's got good measurables. But Banks to me is really impressive. I had high hopes for him, and he's meeting every one of them. Like, he's very smooth in his transitions. He has good quickness, ball reads. I mean, his reaction quickness is really on point, which is hard for a corner early in a career, because a lot of times they're inside their head. So they're thinking, did I guess that right? Did I think that right? He's processing quick and trusting himself. Now, the true test will be when he gets beat once or twice in a game, if he still does that, right? But so far, he's shown a lot of impressive traits, and I can understand why they took him in the first. And again, Hawkins, again, I had less expectation for him, but he's such a raw talent. I was like, here we go, and he's living up to it. He's physical. He's coming up in the run game. He's playing at the line of scrimmage. So, for me, he's looking like a really tough kid. I just hope he doesn't try to be too tough, is what I would say, early in his career, and then he gets nicked up and stuff. Let the big boys play up front. Okay, I want you to come up on run support for sure, but let the big boys play up front, and you just mind that back end. I think at Jackson, obviously, I'm a huge Adoree Jackson fan. He should not be returning kicks and punts, as we've discussed, but he has the talent to if we need to in a pinch. But I think him in this slot as the nickel guy is going to bring a lot of help to the kids because he's going to know how to line up, where to go, angles. Could be that coach on the field from that position and do a lot of good for even our linebackers that are dropping into coverage and stuff. Like just working with them by being so close to them. I think that'll be an excellent position for him to be in, for us to utilize him in. The safeties, I mean, I really got excited about, again, the back end is young, their energy, everything's going to be great as long as they stay that confident group, which Wink tends to do. And he's really good at ever since he was at the Raiders, having the back end kind of over believe in themselves. So, I hope he continues that because I think he's got a lot of good energy there in that room right now.
You mentioned the back end. I mean, were you surprised to see Pinnock emerge the way he has? I mean, I liked him last year, and there were times when I kept saying that if the Giants moved on from Julian Love, Pinnock would have been the guy that I would have guessed to be, the heir apparent, so to speak. What have you seen from Pinnock and also Dane Belton, who is in second year? He's been looking pretty good, as kind of a sub package type of safety, playing with a lot more confidence, I think. But what have you seen from those two guys?
No, I think you pegged it right, and you as you often do, but yeah, you pegged it right. Pinnock's been great. I'm enjoying him a lot. McKinney obviously is a gifted player, and I just think here's where, and I don't know if we're going to get into it in the show or not, but the salary cap's going to dictate a lot of the cuts coming up because the Giants, I believe, I think they're 29th in the league in cap room or something right now. So they're going to have to free some stuff up and move some contracts around just to be able to survive the season. If I have that correct, you usually know the numbers better than I do, but I think I got it researched right before the show. And if so, the back end's where they can maybe save a little bit of money here because they are young and they have some good contracts back there. So I think that's where you might see some moves. But back to Pinnock and the group, I think Belton, I think he's going to be a very good, serviceable, situational safety. And if pressed into play, he's going to be very good at it. Otherwise, he's going to be excellent on teams. He's going to run down and do some really good things for us there because obviously our special teams need to upgrade from last year. Otherwise, we're going to be in a world of hurt, right? But that being said, I would not, I wouldn't be scared if Belton had to be pressed into play right now. But Pinnock's been very impressive.
Mm-hmm. Now, can we talk about Bobby Okereke and what he has brought to that linebacker unit? I mean, hallelujah, they finally have a guy. I think, you'd have to go back to when Blake Martinez was here and he was healthy, but they finally have what looks like to be a solution at inside linebacker. What has his presence done for this defense? What has it allowed it to do that it wasn't able to do maybe last year?
I think what it will eventually do is give the Lawrence and the Williams and the guys up front ability to take a chance and know he's back there confidently to clean it up. If you look at him in Indy last year, he had like 146 tackles. Only 6 of them were tackles for losses. So what's that mean? He's patrolling that line of scrimmage efficiently, effectively, and he's allowing the guys up front to go take a chance without it costing the team yardage because he's there to clean it up for him. He's not going to be the guy who's downhill slashing, filling gaps to get the play. No, he's letting the guys up front do that. And then as soon as the running back breaks that first line of defense, boom, I'll clean it up. I got you guys. It might be a yard gain, might be 2, but we're not giving up 5, 6, 10-yard bursts. I'm there. I got you. And so when they get into some situations where, and the front knows, like when Lawrence is like, I'm supposed to do this and I did that, and all of a sudden it opened up a run game, and oh damn, we just got gashed for 12 yards. Well, now it's 2 yards. He'll go back into the, hey, thanks for covering me on that one. I shot a gap. I got excited and I wasn't supposed to, and you cleaned it up for me. I really appreciate that, man. So that kind of confidence, I think, will start growing with this group, and him being such a sure tackler. Like, I mean, when he hits you, I'm not going to say he's a thudder. I don't think you're a punisher, but when he hits you, he sticks to you like glue and you're down. Like, you're going to go down. You're not going to pick up, extra yardage after contact. He hits you solidly and then that's it. So I think his presence in that second layer of defense is going to build the confidence in the front layer to take a chance, do a couple things, knowing that they can trust that second set of defenders to really be there to clean it up.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I really like what I've seen of him, and he's so smart. My goodness, really super smart guy. Let's talk about the defensive line. Yeah, well, of course, yeah, definitely. Let's talk about the defensive line now. We know Dex and Leo are set, but this kid Jordan Riley, a 7th rounder, who I got to be honest with you, when they took him, I thought, oh, developmental prospect, practice squatter. This kid's looked pretty good. He played primarily in the nose tackle spot the first week. He got some defensive end snaps this past week. He's looked pretty good, I think. What have you seen from him? And can they have Nunes Roches, they have Ashawn Robinson ahead of him, but has he made this final picture a little bit more complicated, do you think?
I think he's the 4th in the group up there, right now. And like you said, he's played himself into this position. He's really shown up. He's a big, long, good-looking sucker, and now he's playing like it too. He's got great center of gravity. He's using his hands well. I won't say they're violent hands just yet. I think he has to get there, but he's using them well, and his length and extension with his hands. You saw it in this last game. He was able to press and push off the blockers off his body. And again, a little bit of maturity. He'll learn how to shock and shed, where he's like really shocking them and then getting off. Right now, he's an engage and push off guy, but that's fine as a young player. Just to be able to do that week 2 shows some maturity already in your game and some good raw physical skills, right? So I think he's played himself into the 4th. I don't think Wink and the group is going to trust him to be like a guy, but they're confident in him taking some reps away from the starters and going into week 1, week 2. Now they can rest Lawrence and, Robinson a little bit with those 2, Nunez and Riley, between the 30s a little bit, let them rotate out and not really worry about, getting gashed. I think that there were, like I said in the opening, we got some tools here now in the shed that they can pull out and feel more confident that will help spell and rest those players. It's 17 weeks, y'all. And there's about 70 offensive plays and, for either offense in every game. So you can't have your big old D lineman playing that kind of, over 700, 900, whatever you want to call it, 1,000 plays a year. They need some rest too. So now last year, like, we always got scared when the rotation came because we're like, oh, here we go. Right. But now I don't like, well, let's see if we can do this. Like, we got this. Because those big boys up front are playing. I think they did a really good job loading up that second range of bullets. So now we're in a much better spot entering the season than we were last year, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. All right, coming up next, there's a lot to like about this team, but there's also some concerns, some of which we haven't talked about yet, but we will talk about them right after this. Hey, Giant fans, football season is about to kick off, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to win all season long. Because right now, when you bet on a Super Bowl winner, you can get bonus bets every time they win in the regular season. Just pick any team to win the Super Bowl, and you'll get bonus bets for every victory. You can use your bonus bets on spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and start earning bonus bets with America's #1 sportsbook. That's FanDuel.com/LockedOn. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Locked On Giants podcast. I'm Patricia Traina, joined by David Turner, my sidekick after games. Love him.
Let's go.
He's psyched. He's pumped up, as am I. I mean, the Giants look good this year, folks. So far, so good. I know a lot of you are like, okay, it's just preseason, but you know what? There's a big difference in what we see this year versus what we saw last year. But that said, there's still a few question marks that I think we need to address. We talked about the offensive line earlier in the show. David, am I crazy for thinking that outside linebacker, the depth at that position is still something that needs to be addressed? Or can they maybe mask that a little bit with activity coming from the defensive secondary?
No, I like, again, I'm a different player here. Those outside linebackers, to me, I think we have a good Xemenez, Ward, Fox. They have good tools. Like I like this group, right? So I'm not of the mindset where we're in dire straits here. Now, if someone gets hurt early in the season and we're dependent on that group to rotate in and do some things, I think that's where we get a little bit, there's a huge disparity in capability. But if our starters stay healthy and maybe we have to depend on one of these guys for a game or two, it's going to be fine. It's going to be absolutely fine. And I think these guys bring stuff to the special teams, which is what they need to do. And that's their role. That's their primary role. But I think stepping into a starter role, yeah, we might take a huge step back. I mean, but that's to be honestly, look at who's starting in front of them, right? Like we got some rare talent up front. So, for me, I think we got serviceable backups. And as a guy who's built teams before, you're going to have deficiencies in some areas. But if you got really good special teamers in this area that can help service you in a game, 2 games, maybe a 3-game stretch, you're actually in a very good spot. You're in a good spot because you can't have starter after starter after starter after starter. It's just not, you can't have a roster of that. Just that's what the cap's for, to make sure you don't have that. But I think they've done a great job of maintaining and keeping in place these players because these players have been with us a little while and putting them to play and them knowing their role. I'm excited about it. I have more of an issue with the starting linebacker spot next to a Kirike.
Yeah, I was going to get to that.
That's the one where I have more of an issue because Beavers is not the player that we saw last year, which I wish he was because last year I know you and I were like, "Whoa, here we go. We like this kid, right?" That ACL seems to have slowed him down. He's playing more cautiously now. He's not penetrating where I would like to see. Whereas Okereke is a guy who can play at the line of scrimmage and clean stuff up. I would love to see Beavers be that attacking linebacker, get up there, try to plug a hole, try to slice through, backdoor a play, run a guy down, do that kind of thing. And I'm not seeing that so far. And then we also have, Carter Coughlin and
Micah McFadden.
I'm not seeing a difference in any of them right now. They all seem to be the same guy, different jersey. So, for me, that's more of my concern on this defense right now. Excited about the back end, the energy in the young room, Adoree Jackson leading it, right? Good. Excited about the front, especially our starters, our second-tier backups at the D-line. Cool. Excited about Okereke. If I'm screwing up his name, let me know. But
carrot cake. That's how I was taught to remember it. Carrot cake. So it's like saying carrot cake.
Okay. So I'm excited about him. But the spot right now that I have the biggest question mark, biggest red flag you want to call it, or siren going off, is that second linebacker spot there for the starters. That's the one I'm most fearful of going into the season on our defense.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. I think you hope that Ojulari and Kayvon Thibodeau are going to stay healthy, but I think if they have to get by with a game or two without them, they can probably do so. Now, on the offensive side, we already talked about offensive tackle number 3 as a concern, but let's look at receiver here because that's still a jumbo mix. So you figure you got Paris Campbell, you got Isaiah Hodgins, Darius Slayton, Jalen Hyatt, who, by the way, has looked fantastic. This kid is just amazing.
I thought he was a steal in the draft where we
Oh,
got
big
him.
time steal in the
Steal.
draft for
Steal.
sure.
I mean, we really should have got arrested for that.
Yeah, yes. I mean, this whole draft class, I mean, if you think about it, the value that Shane got was amazing. But so you've got 4 receivers right there. Then do you keep Shep and Beasley or Beasley, one or the other? And then how many receivers do you go with? And how do you just kind of round this whole thing out? That to me is like maybe the second biggest question or the third, we'll say, after inside linebacker 2, offensive tackle 3, and now receiver. Who's going to be at the bottom of the depth chart?
I'm excited about the top of the depth chart. Let's go there first.
Okay,
Sure,
why not?
Like honestly, like I love the idea of Paris Campbell. I've loved this player for a while. I just don't think he's ever like panned out to the 100% what he should be. But what I saw the other day is what I saw with him coming out, and him and Waller together, pair them with Bellinger, Hodgins and Slayton, like that, it just becomes ridiculous. There's so many tools there. There's more tools in that toolbox than Daniel Jones has ever had, almost. Okay. So it's just like unbelievable, right? So I'm going to say this. I like the top of the depth chart here. I don't think that you're going to see a special crew. I don't think you have that, Justin Jefferson type receiver, but I think you have a very solid group, and it's very impressive once you put it on the field together and you put it in combination with the running backs and the tight ends. This is a loaded toolbox for Daniel to take advantage of. Okay. That being said, Hyatt just brings explosion and his route running. I couldn't believe he missed that one pass. I mean, and then he comes back on the next play and just accelerates and gets a touchdown, right? But I mean, he's usually a very sure-handed receiver who catches balls like that, all the time. He's very fluent in his movement to be able to, do the acrobatic catches, whatever. I watched him a lot in college, and I'm like, oh my gosh, when we got him where he was, I couldn't believe he was still on the board. Like, it was one of those players that you just assumed was off the board by then. And then all of a sudden you look up and you see him there. And I think that's what Joe and the crew said too. Is like, how is this guy still here? We can't not take him. It's just amazing. Yeah, they were so lucky. But I think here you might have to start thinking Beasley, Shepard, someone's not going to be there because of the salary cap. And they can't carry all the weight, right? So I think something's going to happen there. I'm not the biggest Beasley fan. I'm just not. I think his skill set has kind of reduced down. That's just me. I think he's better coach type candidate now than he is as much as what we can use on the play as a player on the field. Wan'Dale Robinson obviously is a special talent that when we get him back, mixing in this mix is going to be a difference maker for us as well. So, I think the creative gymnastics is going to happen here. I always love Sills and Johnson. I think Johnson to me could play for a lot of teams, and for me, he's been underutilized in a lot of ways. Last preseason, I was really gloating about him. I still like what I see out of Johnson. So, if
but he was injured last year, so
I know, but
yeah, and
I like him.
He's injured again, unfortunately.
Is he now?
Yeah, he's got a knee injury.
Well, all right, Colin. See ya. I like the kid. I think he's really, brought a lot to the team, and he's done a lot of dirty work in different preseasons and things to help us. So I just think when you do the math on the thing, Hyatt, Hodgins, Slayton, Campbell are your 4. Shepard should be your 5th, with Robinson being your 6th. That's the way I play it out. But it's going to be what the coaches want between, like you said, Shepard and Beasley. I think everybody else, that they
Special
want.
teams too is going to play into the mix, I'm sure.
Right. I don't think either Beasley or Shepard really want to be playing special teams where they're at in their career.
Yeah,
right?
and I don't think they do. I don't think Robinson. I don't remember him playing special teams prior to his injury either.
Well, Wan'Dale can be a returner. Like Wan'Dale Robinson could be a returner if you ask.
Yeah, but I don't think he did last year.
No, last year we had other people doing it,
Yeah.
and again, you don't need him to do it because of who we have on the team. Like, I thought Gray, another steal of the draft, Eric Gray. I'm jumping groups here to running backs, but I love what I see out of him so far. Like, honestly, I love what I saw in college of this kid, and what I saw the other day. Now, again, we're going to talk pass protection. Yes, he has to step up and hit that a little bit better. I thought the physicality in his pass protection was spot on. Where it missed was his angles. And that is something that Tom Rathman always said, hey, if a guy's willing to step up, put his nose in it, I'll teach him the angles. And there was a couple times he stepped up too narrowly and he attacked the inside shoulder when he needed to attack square on. That's just an angle. He still got a hit on the guy, but he just didn't get enough of them to prevent the hit on the quarterback. So therefore, you just got, that's something you can work with because he's willing to do it. His run style, where he's a flat back runner with his shoulder square downhill, like that's something that's just natural and you don't get all the time. So this is a kid that also showed that he could return the ball and different things. So he's a kid that I think can be a very good Swiss Army knife for us this season. And I think, if you're Gary Brightwell, you got to be questioning your spot with this young rookie right here, right on your tail.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. The Giants still with one more preseason game to go against the Jets. The Jets supposedly are going to play Aaron Rodgers this coming weekend on Saturday night for the preseason finale. So I don't know what the Giants' plans are yet about personnel, but certainly, some final decisions need to be made. And I imagine we'll probably see the bottom of the depth chart as those guys fight it out. So, David, it's going to be exciting to watch. Dallas is coming up September 10th. Oh, baby, are you ready for that one or what?
Oh, I'm ready, and I'm ready to take the leashes off and let them go hunting now because this is going to be fun. I think Dallas is a wounded animal, so we gotta let our guys go hunting and go get them.
Absolutely. All right, Giant fans, that's going to do it for this edition of the Locked On Giants podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in and making us your first listen of the day, or if you watch on YouTube, or your first watch of the day. We'll be back every day this week with more episodes as the Giants return to training camp practices on Monday when you're watching this show, obviously, and they'll be practicing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Friday is a walkthrough. And then, of course, Saturday night, it's Giants Jets, and we'll have everything for you here on the Locked On Giants podcast. For David Turner and Patricia Traina, thank you so much, and we'll see you again tomorrow, Giants fans.